This evening, let's escape competitive stress by unlocking inner calm with meditation. Many decades ago, when I began studying Tibetan Buddhism, well, I take it back. I would say when I was in my first 4 years of studying Tibetan Buddhism, my preceptor, Gen Wangmo Kelsang, pulled me aside. You see, she wasn't a big fan of me being playfully competitive with others and saying, come on, let's race to nirvana. She didn't like that at all. And what she told me was, there's much more benefit in rejoicing in someone other's merit, another person's good fortune, than in being competitive or jealous or envious of where they were at. In fact, she told me that anytime an individual sincerely rejoices in the good fortune of another, or the merit of another, the wisdom of another, or the good karma of another, then one generates instantly the exact same amount of good karma. Now, that was most likely malarkey told simply to tell people to be less competitive. But let's take a deeper look at that. When the under area of our brain is lit up, that under area is known as the amygdala, and it is the seat of our aggression and fear and, basically the filthy McNasties which make us utterly unpleasant. However, when we have a healthy meditation life, it is the anterior cingulate gyrus that lights up, which is our seat of empathy, the hub of our mirror neurons. So, after such a promise such as that, the question is, how does one do that? Simple. Oh, that's weird. Okay, that's much better. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not for active concentration, but instead to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And we call this mindfulness. And in our state of mindfulness, we are wired to notice perceptions such as appearances, resonance, sensation, flavor, fragrance, and the like. But also including emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. Of course, that begs the question, what are we to do with that which we notice? Every time we exhale, never mind. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we access our parasympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to both physically relax as well as mentally release. So as we relax during our exhalation, although we noticed all that we noticed during the previous inhalation, can now feel as non-graspable as if it was a vast, empty void. And that is meditation. So mindfulness and meditation are as close as our next inhalation and exhalation. Therefore, many people find it helpful to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, as well as the metaphor void during each exhalation. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you in approximately 1 minute. Until then, This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of our patrons on Patreon. If you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Rey on Ahch-To under the guidance of Luke Skywalker, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. By the way, good news. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window, either on the right-hand side of the screen if you're using a laptop, or the bottom of your screen if you're using your smartphone. Oh, I think I hit the wrong button. Let me see if I can't fix that real quick. This evening's practice text, or sadhana, if you fancy, is an adaptation of the Anapanasati Sutta, known simply as secular mindfulness meditation and contemplation. And just as every sprint begins with a starter's pistol, I like to begin with a brief recitation intended to exercise the neural pathways responsible for empathy and enthusiasm. Please chant with me. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. So in the Buddha's most popular meditation manual, there were 16 exercises that divided evenly into 4 sets of 4. We begin with Kayasati's only set of 4 preliminary meditations that center our bodies. We begin with the first of century's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate our relaxingly longer gentle exhalations. Do bear in mind that mindfulness is the first of 7 enlightenment factors. Now, fortunately, we practice it automatically every time we inhale thanks to our sympathetic nervous system. We're going to play with 2 rhetorical questions, each only containing 2 words. So it's not our job to physically manipulate our respiratory system. It's not our job to control the duration or depth of our breathing. All we gotta do is silently and mentally recite how and long, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. Do that, and you will find that you are automatically exercising your faculty to notice. Do your best to sit up nice and tall in a manner that would delight your grandmother. If this is your first week of training, it's perfectly appropriate for you to practice this exercise for 2 sets of 16 rounds, about once every 12 hours. And then after a week or so, you can be ready to add on an additional exercise. These instructions are found at the top of the page. So for the second week, we'd practice 32 rounds of this meditation after 32 rounds of the previous meditation. So we come to the second of Centering's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate the coalescence of our invigoratingly sharper inhalations. I guess, there we go, that's probably better. So invigoration, or energy, is the third of 7 enlightenment factors. And it takes place automatically, simply by playing with these words. We're replacing the adjective long with the adjective short. And once again, simply by silently and mentally reciting these 2 words, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. Energization, subtle. Energization takes care of itself. It's been my experience that no matter what's going on in your life, these 16 exercises in sequence always seem to help. We come now to the third exercise, the third of Centering's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we allow our minds to mindfully notice, even investigate our bodies remember that investigation is the second enlightenment factor, and basically it's just the opposite about being defensive. It's choosing to be enthusiastically vulnerable. This time during the inhalation, we silently and we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb feel. And remember, this mindfulness is taken care of by the sympathetic nervous system. During the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the noun form, which functions as a synonym for our body. We come to the fourth, a four centering, take two. We come to the fourth of centering four physical preliminary practices where we allow our bodies to tranquilly relax. This tranquility is the fifth enlightenment factor, and we don't have to force it to happen. It takes place automatically during each exhalation thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the noun form, and as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb calm. We continue with Vedana Sati's set of 4 jhana meditations that center our feelings. We begin with the first of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the first jhana's invigorating, blissful joy. Joy, of course, being the 4th enlightenment factor. This blissful joy flows from gently grinning with the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes towards our bodies of flesh, blood, and bone. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the verb grin. As we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the noun form. Please remember that this grin is less of a clown grin and more of a subtle Mona Lisa smile. We continue with the second of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the second jhana's peaceful joy that flows from gently grinning with the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes towards our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. And clearly we're using thoughts as an umbrella term. As we breathe in, we continue silently and mentally reciting the verb grin. And as we exhale, we replace the noun form with the noun thoughts. And this goes a long way to us making friends with our various emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Because although sometimes they can be glorious, sometimes they're grotesque. And the pain that they cause us is directly proportional to the amount of resistance we harbor towards them. And by performing this simple physiological smile towards these thoughts, it sends a very powerful signal that we've decided to no longer resist. And of course, if you're as geeky as me, you'll remember that wonderful line from Star Trek The Next Generation. Say it along with me. Resistance is futile. So, as we sit in meditation, it is an inevitability that memories will come back to us, sometimes pleasant, sometimes horrible. This exercise goes a long way to us making peace with those memories. We continue with a third of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices where we savor the third jhana's contentment. By mindfully noticing, investigating, and coalescing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. So coalescence is the sixth enlightenment factor. And it takes place automatically as we breathe in. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb feel. As we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term thoughts. Thoughts not only include our memories, they also include our fantasies. And when they combine together simultaneously, that's called a confabulation. That doesn't make us a liar, it just means that our imagination is capable of going both forwards as well as backwards. This brings us to the fourth of four feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the fourth jhana's neutrality by allowing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining to tranquilly relax. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the noun thoughts. And as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb calm. We continue with Chitta Sati's second set of 4 jhana meditations that center our mind. We begin with the first of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 5th jhana's metaphoric sphere of infinite spaciousness by mindfully noticing, investigating, and coalescing our mind's ability to see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and the like. And clearly, we're using mind as an additional umbrella term. So as we breathe in, again, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb feel. And once again, the heavy lifting of this mindfulness is taken care of by the sympathetic nervous system. And as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the noun, the umbrella term, mind. We continue with the second of 4 mind-oriented centering practices. We savor the 6th jhana's metaphoric sphere of infinite awareness, which we generate by allowing our mind to invigoratingly gladden. And towards it, we gently smile once again, from the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes. Again, during our inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the verb grin. And this time, during the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the noun mind. We come to the third of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 7th jhana's metaphoric sphere of non-graspability, as we allow our minds seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like to tranquilly relax in the most sustainable way. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the noun mind. As we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb calm, remembering that it is the parasympathetic nervous system that we automatically access during our exhalation that is responsible for the relaxation of our mind. we come to the fourth of minds, 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 8th jhana's sphere, metaphoric sphere of acquiescent non-labeling. Now we come to the fourth of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 8th jhana's metaphoric sphere of acquiescent non-labeling. By experiencing the liberating equanimity or balance of our controlling tendencies to push and to pull, this equanimity is the 7th enlightenment factor. And just so during our inhalation, again, we silently and mentally recite the noun mind. But just as in the previous exercise, we silently and mentally recited the verb calm, during this exercise, we silently and mentally recite the verb free. For each exhalation automatically accesses our parasympathetic nervous system, which is evolved both for physical relaxation as well as mental release. We end with Dhamma Sati, or Anika Vipassanas, Sutta for impermanence contemplations. I should say impermanence contemplations, to help us to circumstantially let go. We begin with the first of 4 contemplations where we invigoratingly consider coarse impermanence. As silently and mentally we recite the first of 4 rhetorical questions. Where? Change. We continue with the second of 4 contemplations where we consider subtle impermanence with the words where, fade, which we recite silently and mentally during our inhalation and exhalation and relaxation. We come to the third of 4 contemplations where we consider very subtle impermanence. We conclude with the fourth of 4 contemplations where we consider relinquishing, surrendering, and letting go. As silently and mentally we recite where, yield, in harmony with our inhalation, exhalation, and relaxation. Let us seal this evening's practice with a bit of the old chanting. May all beings practice have kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 10 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning lesson and meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.